My Aunt Anya was a mysterious woman with a balloon obsession. She marveled over the inflatable objects so much that the woman had collections of unopened packets laying around in her home. Anya wasn't a clown of some kind. She was genuinely fond of the balloon, which somehow made her even more creepy than the average clown. Being her nephew wasn't so fun. She always gave me the creeps in general. Her hoarding balloons just added to how I felt about her. Her bi-monthly gifts of balloons were often not appreciated, especially considering the fact that I've told her so frequently to please stop giving me balloons. An 18-year-old male does not need so many damn balloons. Yet, that didn't stop the stubborn woman when I turned 20, and it wouldn't when I turned 21 or 25 or heck, even now at 30. It wouldn't stop until the woman was unable to send them. She once explained her persistent gifts with, "Balloons are friends, Alex. I will never stop giving you friends. They're more loyal than the average human friend. They'll stay with you until they no longer float." And then so I asked her, "Aunt Anya, is that why you bury them?" She nodded, and a sad look crossed her face. So many lost friends, so many corpses. Just recalling that conversation, it makes me shiver a little. Anyway, when she died, I, her only nephew, inherited all of her belongings. I got the deed to her house along with all the fucking balloons. The house itself was nice, but all that clutter was a bit too much to handle. What did I do? Well, anything a sane, non-balloon obsessed hoarder would do. Get rid of all those balloons. My first week of living in my aunt's house, I had at least 3 large trash bags worth of popped or deflated balloons from the first floor alone. And I'm assuming she didn't have time to bury them all once her body started to deteriorate, but still. Not one balloon was thrown in the trash. A heap of her balloon corpses were found on the bed in the guest room, awaiting to be buried in the backyard. And I laughed when I saw the guest room. "Aunt Anya," I asked nobody, talking to myself really, "why?" And a faint answer came to me. Nothing clear or coherent in the slightest. It was too far away to be understood. Thinking that it was all in my mind, I shrugged it off and continued my task of throwing all the clutter away. The night I had finished the cleanup, the first dream of many came to me. Aunt Anya was sitting in her comfy blue recliner, staring directly at me. The look on her face was both of disgust and disappointment, as if I had done something despicable. "Bodies don't belong in the trash," she scolded. "You disrespect my friends. You disrespect me. Don't disrespect the dead, Alex." The dreams continued until I caved and started to bury the friends that I didn't throw away. My girlfriend said I was being ridiculous, but somehow burying them appeased my dream aunt. Granted, my aunt didn't disappear from my dreams, but it did change how she talked to me. The more I respected the popped or deflated balloons like she did, the more Aunt Anya would say less creepy shit. It was as if she now understood that it creeped me out, and it changed the aspects of her that always unnerved me. The dreams started to worsen once I had to get rid of the packaged balloons. To appease Anya, whether it was my subconscious acting as my aunt or her spirit, I decided to bury the unused balloons instead of throwing them out. The following dream I only had once. "Alex," she said disapprovingly, "we don't bury the living." "But we don't bury our friends alive." And those words were enough to wake me in a cold sweat. I looked at the clock to see that it was 3 a.m. "Christ," I swore, putting on a jacket and shoes to dig up what I had buried several hours ago. I soon brought in the unused packages and plopped them down on the kitchen counter. Shaken up, I headed up the stairs. Before I could leave the living room, I heard a familiar voice behind me say, as clear as day, "Good night." I turned around immediately, expecting to see my aunt, and I saw the empty blue recliner she used to sit in. Needless to say, I slept in a hotel room that night, and I dreamt of nothing. To solve the issue of decluttering the house on my terms and the dreams, I decided to spend the night at my girlfriend's where the dreams could not reach me for some reason. This made the cleanup a lot easier. I didn't bother to unearth what I had already buried, but I did start throwing any balloon I came across, dead or living, in the garbage. Eventually, all was cleaned except the basement. I was saving the basement for last because 1, it was creepy, and 2, I just had a bad feeling about going down there. I'd only been down there once when my aunt was still alive. The woman had chewed me out once she found me there. Perhaps her rule of never going into the basement still had leverage over me. But considering she was dead, I reasoned it no longer mattered. As soon as I entered the basement, I noticed how heavy and humid the air was. I would have disregarded it as the basement being musty if it wasn't for the smell. Or, to put it correctly, the actual lack of smell. The basement did not have that musty smell. It didn't have any odor. It had no scent. And cautiously, I descended the basement stairs. The second thing I noticed was the lack of balloons. It was relatively clean. Only boxes of unused furniture were stored in the main room. No wonder there was so much clutter upstairs. She didn't keep her friends downstairs at all because they were her guests. When I noticed the door across the room, the wrongness grew within me. My gut was screaming at me to go back upstairs, but my stubbornness and curiosity was much stronger. Forcing myself to the door, I inhaled and exhaled while I repeated the mantra, "It's all in your head. It's all in your head," until my hand rested on the cold door handle. Like pulling off a band-aid, I swung the door open. And what I found will always haunt me. The room was filled wall to wall with pictures of missing people. Satanic symbols and hexes were plastered in black ink on the walls and ceiling. What appeared to be a summoning circle of some sort. I don't know what it is exactly, but it was drawn on the ground in a dark red substance. In the center was a box labeled, "My Special Friends." I didn't even bother to look. I could smell the decaying flesh from where I stood. It was nauseating. Once I was able to move, I ran upstairs, out of the house, and I called the cops. The police later told me that the box was full of deflated balloons covered in human flesh from the missing people's faces. They also found a hidden trap door where more human remains were recovered. More remains along with torn masks of faces were found buried along with balloons. Turns out, my aunt had killed these people. And there were so many people. The thing that gets me the most, and what I can't seem to wrap my head around, is the fact that these victims were not only from local missing people. A lot of the unrecognizable bodies were later identified as missing people from all around the world. There's a big problem with that. How could my aunt, 100-pound, frail woman who never traveled out of the country, kidnap and kill someone who was last seen in a foreign country? Well, some questions are best left unanswered, and for now, I kind of prefer to keep it a mystery.